Hey, it's Peter from ShadowTrader.net, and I just wanted to tell you about some cool stuff going on in the month of November. It's open house month at ShadowTrader, which means that both of our chat rooms are going to be free for an entire week. SquawkBox is going to be first. That's going to be November 13th to November 17th. And then my room, the Weekly Options Advisory, will be free from November 27th to December 1st. Super easy to join us. Just hit the link in the description below, which is shadowtrader.net/free. There's no credit card required. Just put your email address there and you'll be good to go. Until then, I wish you good trading, and I'll see you in the room. Good afternoon, it's Peter from ShadowTrader.net and Weekly Options Advisory, and in a few minutes or less I'm going to make my case here as to why I think the market is not going back down in the near future. So let's start with this SPX on the daily chart. First reason why I think that is that we have now retraced 100% of this move. Generally, when you retrace 100% of a move, it's just much harder for the market to come back down. You can see this would be like the full retracement, and we're actually peaking a little bit above that. Now, if we switch our chart over to the NDX, the NASDAQ 100, notice the difference. It's well through the 100% move and even higher, and more importantly, so much more definitively of a trend break here, way above, right? And it just seems like there's only a stone's throw to get to 16,000, which should be relatively easy, I think, just given the pattern. It feels like that's where we're going. I'm a huge believer that if there's a very powerful NDX with a tech-driven rally, it's just so much harder for the S&P to be weak and fall down, even though the S&P has so many more factors and so many more different types of sectors pulling it in different directions. Which brings me to the next piece of my analysis, talking about the four top sectors in the S&P, which are starting with technology. Obviously, that looks a lot like the NDX. It's more than likely coming back to here, not coming down. Healthcare is always a wild card. It's always a little bit weaker than everything else. But even here, you can see that it's starting to put in a clear higher low. And that's obviously going to help the market a lot because it is a very heavily weighted sector. Consumer discretionary is, of course, very, very important. I love this sort of bunching up here at the top when you have a straight move in one direction and then you pause and you don't come down. That generally indicates higher to me, and that's also a heavily weighted sector in the S&P. And finally, financials, which I really think is the best sector for trades next week because it has the same sort of bunching up action here at the top, above the 8, above the 21. You have the pinch here, and it's pretty obvious that it wants to see this downtrend line, and if it breaks that line, it could be higher. Now, let's play a little bit of devil's advocate before we wrap up the video. What are the potentials for the market coming back down? Not a whole lot, but I will point out this. Coming into next week, if you look at the futures chart, I always like to do my technicals on cash and not futures. But at the same time, I do pay attention to the futures. It's not like you can just stick your head in the sand and not look at this stuff. So look at the S&P, the ES here rather, right up against the key resistance point. So I wouldn't be surprised if on Monday or Tuesday, there might be a little bit of a backing off and then a retest of this 4430 area. If there's no backing off whatsoever and it just drills through, obviously that is your most bullish scenario. And last but not least, let's look at the 10-year because the market is obviously very sensitive to what's going on with rates. This is the one thing that I think could derail a rally is the fact that you're coming into the support here of this secondary trend line. And depending on if these rates lift or how much they lift, I would think that if we push hard back to that 5% area, that's the one thing that could put pressure on the market. So I want you to be watching this chart very closely as you navigate and trade the markets next week and on into the end of the year. Hey, this is Peter from ShadowTrader.net, and I just wanted to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to trade live with me every day in my weekly options advisory, then check out the link in the description below. I wish you good trading, and I'll see you in the room.